to my podcast, eSTEAMd Women. It used to be called Silence, and then it became Innovation, and now finally women are more empowered than ever to use their voices to express what it's really like to strive and thrive in what often tends to be a very male-dominated world. I'm sure it hasn't been easy, but these women have really achieved and accomplished. They truly are eSTEAMd women who have chosen careers in science, technology and innovation. They're typically go-getters, alpha females, hard-working and maybe even just a little bit perfectionistic. But on the whole, they've applied their talents and skills to really make a difference. That was certainly my own intention when working as a mechanical engineer. In these episodes, you'll get a chance to hear about some fascinating innovations, but you're also likely to be inspired and uplifted by the personal stories and experiences of my amazing guests. So let's hear it from my STEM sister and incredibly esteemed woman, Rashim Mogha, founder of eWow.
My name is Rashim Mogha. I'm the CEO and founder of the Empowered Women of the World Initiative, an intellectual platform that empowers women to discover, visualize, and actualize their success. Besides my role as the CEO of the Empowered Women of the World Initiative, I've also led leadership, technology leadership, and business leadership positions at companies like Amazon, VMware, Oracle, Automation Anywhere, and Skillsoft.
Wow. Are you originally an engineer?
Yes, I started my career off as a Java developer, believe it or not.
Wow, so you're a coder.
Yes, I started coding. I led engineering teams. I still have 5 Alexa skills on Alexa Store. So I keep that side, the developer side and the engineering side alive in myself.
And why did you decide to kind of move into the space of empowering women?
So it comes from a personal experience, Shani. I grew up in India and I came from a family that had royal lineage, Rajputs, oldest of the 3 daughters. And while girls were educated, really educated, they were married off. And then it was up to their husband and their families to decide what they would do further in their career. And that was something that I was not ready for. So I studied computer science, took on a Java developer role, and then very quickly moved to US to escape an arranged marriage and come here to chart out a path of my own. And I thought that coming to the US would make things easy for me. However, when I landed over here, being a woman of color in technology, it was really hard for me. I was often passed over for promotions. There was inherent bias. And that's why I started speaking a lot about it. And during that process, I realized that my story wasn't unique. My circumstances might have been, but my story wasn't unique. There were so many other women leaders, specifically women of color, who were actually dealing with the same scenario. And that's how we came together and started talking about it. When I still remember it was 2018. I was at Women Transforming Technology giving a keynote. And as I walked on the stage, somebody asked me, "Do you have a book on this?" And I was like, "No, but I will have one soon." And on my way back from Palo Alto to Livermore, I was frenetically calling all my friends who had published books to ask for a publisher. That was in May. And in September, we released my first leadership book. I had written technology books before, but first leadership book called Fast Track Your Leadership Career, which became an Amazon bestseller within 11 hours of its release. Now, I did not know what had hit me at that time, because I thought, book, great, people are finding value in it. And then people started coming back to me and saying, how do we take this conversation forward? Like, what's next? That's how the Empowered Women of the World Initiative was born, because we wanted to provide women with that platform, intellectual platform, through 4 C's: connection, competency, community, and celebration, to be able to actually discover, visualize, and actualize their success, whatever that means to them. Because so many times we live with the definition of the success, that society has given to it, right? and the meaning that society finds in success. Our definition of success can be completely different from others. And that's how the Empowered Women of the World initiative was born.
Oh, I love that. And I love the 4 C's: celebration, competency,
connection, and community.
Wow. Yeah, so powerful. That's just so powerful. Let's take those 4 C's one by one, because competency is, I think, probably something that women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, tend to probably focus on the most, because we are very much, I see women, I'm really overgeneralizing here, but like I see women as really wanting to get good at something to feel empowered.
Yeah.
So it's
because we tend to prove ourselves 10x times better than men to get where men are, right? Because inherently we are seen as non-technical, we are seen as somebody who is not competent enough as compared to our male counterparts. So we spend so much time building that competency, that skill, and specifically technical skills to get where we need to be.
Yeah. So tell me about the community and connection aspect, because do women help other women realistically in STEM?
That was one of the reasons why community is such an important pillar of this conversation, Shini, because when I landed in this country 15 years ago, or even before that, when I was in India, I realized that there was no real community. I could not go and talk about a startup idea or an entrepreneurship idea or passive streams of income with anybody, specifically women leaders. And I found the male groups to be very close-knit. And that's why when we created EVOW, as community was such an important part, because now women leaders could actually talk to each other, share their experiences, have a think tank that's available, which helps them grow their passion to the next level. I have a startup idea. Whom can I meet with in the community who can help us get there or even inspire me? I remember one of our EVOW family members, she was in a corporate job for over 20 years. She had great startup ideas, but really could not take them further within the environment of a corporate organization. And she decided to leave her job to pursue it. And the day that she posted in our community that she was leaving her job to start something of her own, there were so many congratulatory messages that came her way. And how can we help? I bring a skill set that's around funding. I bring a skill set that's about setting up your C Corp. How can we help you? And everybody kind of gathered together to provide her the support system and the infrastructure that she needed to be successful. And that's where community becomes so important. It's not always about who can help you, but who is your biggest cheerleader as well, who is going to change your mindset and keep you positive during this journey and encourage you to get there.
Now I ask you a question, which I don't want it to sound negative, okay? But is there ever a kind of approach amongst women that is not competitive, but like there's so few opportunities for women?
Yep.
Do you think something exists whereby women are a little bit tentative to help other women because there's so few opportunities for us?
I have personally experienced it many, many times. And that's why it becomes important to have that mindset change where we don't think about pie as an apple pie or a pumpkin pie, which is limited, but pi as 22 by 7, that goes to infinite number. And those are the opportunities that we need to start looking at. And when you build that community and when you build that connection where you're helping each other and genuinely coming from a place of how can I give back, and that attitude of gratitude, that it all starts coming together. So I have seen 10 years ago, you're absolutely right. It was all tentative. I've actually seen women leaders not even sharing opportunities with each other, immaterial of whether that opportunity was relevant to them or not, right? And immaterial if there was a competition, direct competition around that or not. But now things are slowly changing. It's also changing because we look at opportunities differently now. I know of so many women leaders now who are more financially aware, who are thinking about their career paths in non-traditional ways. And when you start doing that, and when your horizon starts expanding, the opportunities become endless. And there is more opportunity then to kind of collaborate, to share information rather than being tentative.
Yeah. It's this concept of we rise by lifting others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's in order to be in that sort of fruitful mindset where you want to blossom and you want others around you to blossom, it takes a lot of really knowing yourself well.
Yeah.
Like knowing where your skills are, knowing what unique things you offer to the world. Because in my experience, when I'm really confident with who I am, I'm able to really share the love with others. And I know that's kind of a bit woo-woo and a bit touchy-feely, but do you think that that is something that comes into the equation of empowering women?
That is 100% accurate, you know. That's why in my book, Fast Track Your Leadership Career, the first thing that I talk about is understand what your superpower is, what is unique that you bring to the table, right? Because when you're confident in yourself, when you know where you want to go, whether it's a linear traditional path or a non-linear, non-traditional path, you really start understanding what is your sweet spot, right? You're not insecure about others then, because that attitude of being tentative actually stems from being insecure in yourself, not knowing what your skill sets are, what your superpower is, what is that USP that sets you apart from others. Because your USP can be completely different from my USP. And when they're different, you bring different sets of skills to the table, and I bring different sets of skills to the table, and we together have a space, right? When I do not know what I bring to the table, and I see you bringing all these skills to the table, then there is a feeling of insecurity that's there. So it's so important to understand who you are, what your values are, what your North Star is. And that North Star can, by the way, change after 10 years or 15 years. 15 years ago, when I came over here, my North Star was to build a life that I was proud of, that was based on my decisions. As I started going through this experience in United States, my North Star became how to empower other women leaders to discover, visualize, and actualize their success. And that, what I want to say over here is that your North Star can evolve, your skill set can evolve, but that confidence that you need to have in yourself and understand what your key values are, that requires constant nurturing. And that's why when we talk about competency, in our framework, there is obviously knowledge competency, but there is also coaching that's part of that competency, because knowledge is great, but if you don't have a pathway to apply that knowledge and to contextualize that knowledge, you won't be successful. And we've seen that with leaders across the board. We all know that we need to lead inclusively. How many of the leaders can truly lead inclusively? There is still such a big gap. And that's why coaching becomes really important in that framework.
How do you keep confident? How do you remain confident when you're trailblazing? Because many women, particularly in STEM, are trailblazers and pioneers. They are carving out a path that doesn't exist yet. And that can often just automatically make you feel insecure. How do you deal with that?
More than insecure, I would say the imposter syndrome sets in, right? Am I good enough? Am I truly a trailblazer? Do I have what it takes to be the trailblazer, right? And for me, I have gone through this myself. Every time I start a new thing, I'm always like, do I have credibility? Am I seen as an expert in this, right? Do I really have what it takes to get to that next level? And a few things that I always have to remember, and these are just what I do with myself and what I coach other women leaders to be as well, is first, you've had a series of successes before. You have a credibility and a case file to lean on to that tells you that you have been successful, you have established your credibility. The second thing is that in today's day and world, technology and the workplace landscape and the world by itself is changing so quickly that nobody is an expert. We all are learning as we go. So you are as good of a trailblazer as anybody else can be. So don't discount yourself or discredit yourself. And then the most important thing that I always tell people is diversify your support system. Your support system, don't think of it as your mother whom you can lean on to, or your spouse or a partner whom you can lean on to, or co-workers whom you have worked with before to lean on to. Diversify it in different categories. So there is an emotional support system that you need to build. There is an intellectual support system that you need to build. There's a financial support system that you need to build. And then, you have to start thinking about well-being as a support system that you need to build. And when you diversify it, you derive positive energy from all these support systems that help you get onto the right path and really address that imposter syndrome.
It's funny because trailblazers and ambitious people find it quite challenging to ask for help or support. Do you find that correlation?
Yes. This comes from a personal experience. 12 years ago, I was ready to move from my current job to a newer job that was in the pipeline. And the moment I put it out there and started thinking about it, I started thinking, is this the right move or not right now for me, right? I have not taken a linear path to growth. So I started as a developer, moved into account management, led a business unit, then came here, became a project manager because I had to start everything from scratch, then moved on to a program management role, then moved on to a business leader role. So I have taken a very non-traditional path in corporate ladder. And I wanted to ask people, is this the right way to go or not? I did not feel confident asking people. I was like, these people see me as a leader. If I go back and ask them something, would it diminish my credibility? Should I not know what to do? Right? Would these people be able to help me? And at that time, I learned a very important lesson in leadership, which is that leaders do not have all the answers. What they do have is the ability to tap into the right resources to get to the right answers. And when when that aha moment happened for me, I realized that everything was a resource pool now for me to tap into and gain knowledge and make the right move in my career.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, gosh. That little shift is gigantic.
It made all the difference for me in my career, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, because you go from almost, I mean, maybe I'm just projecting my own stuff, but you go from seeing people as almost like not a threat, but like competition.
People who would judge you or question your abilities, right?
Yeah. To actually being someone that can help you get towards your North Star.
Yeah. Basically. I see them as sounding boards now. I see them as people who can help me think about a different perspective. Now, in that process, though, I would tell you that what I had to develop is a conviction in myself, right? They're going to be people, and each person is going to have their own opinion. Now, what you as a leader also need to be able to do is to look at all the opinions that are available and do a pro and cons with your values, your North Star, to see which of these opinions make the most sense. And a set of opinions, you and I might have the same set of opinions, but our values and our North Star might be different. So what might work for you in terms of those opinions might not work for me. And that is where you bring in your analytical capabilities, your decision-making, problem-solving capabilities to get to the right answer.
And it also sounds like, yet again, there has to be a really strong sense of self.
Yes.
Because when you've gone to 10 people for advice and you've chosen those people carefully and they're all giving different advice, there has to be a real sense of, okay, that advice was great, but it's not particularly good for me. That other piece of advice was great, but it doesn't necessarily fit with me. Like, there has to be this really mature process of discernment.
Yeah.
To select the gems and the gifts that are all around us.
Yeah.
There for the picking. Without, I don't know.
Without getting lost in noise, right? And that's why, Shini, if you look at EVOW and the mission to discover, visualize, and actualize, that first part of discovering what success means to you, right, becomes so important, because that's what defines you knowing yourself, you knowing what you want, you defining your success, you defining what happiness means to you. It all stems from that first step of discovering yourself and then visualizing it and then putting a plan together to actualize it.
I love that. I just love that so much. It's so powerful. Because for me personally, this idea of discovery continues, and I'm in my 40s.
Yes.
And it's like...
And I didn't even start that journey until I was in my 30s, early 30s, right? And that's important too. Like some of us, I see the newer generation and they're just so hugely aware of what they want in life, sometimes more than what I am now, even 15 years later of moving into this country. But that is something that took me a lot of time to even identify. We complete our school and our college and we get our first job. And then we get into this rat race of, I'm going to be happy when I'm a team leader, or I'm going to be happy when I'm a director, or I'm going to be happy when I'm a VP and my paycheck looks like $1 million and stuff like that. And we lose ourselves in that rat race. And It's a journey to discover yourself and what truly makes you happy. And how would you define your success?
Yeah. It's so interesting being at this stage in life because I mentor younger women. I actually have stepkids who are, starting their journey of their careers and things like that. And often I see them agonizing because the world is their oyster.
Yeah.
But it's kind of overwhelming to have that much opportunity. And what we're discussing here is ultimately leadership, and empowerment. But there are so many stages to get there that may feel like a waste of time, the dark ages, a difficult patch or whatever, but they're all so necessary to get to this ultimate goal of empowerment.
Yeah.
I just find it so beautiful because when you talk about it, and you describe it, it's just, there's nothing to fear.
And it's a progressive, it's not an act that you would do once and you're done with it, like discovering yourself. We're changing every day as human beings. I have to go back and do that exercise with me every month to see, where am I going? Am I on the right path? Has my North Star changed? Do I need to pivot now? Right? At any given point in time, from various aspects in my life, what do I need to prioritize this month? And it's a discovery, it's a journey. And that's why that continuous learning process for yourself becomes so important. I have a 10-year-old and she is hugely active on TikTok. She produces these cat videos and is very careful about what she posts and how, it's always has to be just about cats, not about herself. And I was having this conversation with her the other day, and I said, well, people write nasty stuff sometimes about your cat, or people talk about things differently, or people unfollow you sometimes. How do you handle that? And she says, Mom, I always have to remember one thing. Why do I put it out there? I put it out there because I love my cat and I love to share my cat with other people. And that's all. So people who don't like my cat would unfollow me, and I'm perfectly okay with that. People who say nasty things about my cat, it doesn't bother me because guess what? My cat is not reading anything, so her emotions are not going to get hurt. I always have to remember why I'm doing this. And that was such a profound statement for me because we as adults sometimes forget about that.
Mm.
And we get impacted by all the negative energy sometimes that comes our way, because anytime you are a trailblazer, anytime you're going to make a hard choice, anytime you're going to speak for a particular issue that you're passionate about, there are going to be people who are going to pull you down. Hard choices are not easy. They have consequences associated with it. You are going to be misunderstood by so many people. So many people are going to tell you that you're being selfish in that moment, right? And you have to always remember what's your ultimate goal and what you're working towards.
100%. It's almost like returning to your center of gravity. How amazing that your daughter, who's 10, already has that wisdom.
I hope it stays, honestly. I hope it stays. But yes, that was it. And And it's always like you need to find time to look within yourselves. Remember 20 years ago when people used to talk about meditation or mindfulness, it was always associated with hippies or some voodoo work that was going on somewhere and all that stuff. And today, it's such an integral part of any kind of leadership that we talk about, because it's so important to look inwards first before you can look outwards and do anything in this outer world that's impactful.
You know, just hearing your words is already empowering enough. And it's like, your book must be, I can understand why it became a bestseller, because you just ooze empowerment. It's so inspiring. I want to know how much of your heritage and origins and childhood and all the early experiences have shaped you, because whichever way you want to look at it, you are an underrepresented person.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you let any of those earlier experiences ever drag you down, or are they a plus, or how do they fit into your whole tapestry?
I think with anything, Shini, all experiences that we have as we are growing up, they can either pull you down or give you a reason to pull yourself up. Everything. And I truly believe in that. I came from a royal lineage, right? My ancestors were kings. And if you think about that, anybody would want to be part of that lineage, right? And then you think about the other aspect of it, which is arranged marriages and somebody else deciding for your future, and women being more of like part of furniture rather than human beings in a house. That can totally bring you down. I'm often asked, are you a rule follower or a rule breaker? And I always say it depends on the situation for me, right? I always questioned the status quo. I was not ready to lead a life that was decided by somebody else for me. And I was the black sheep in the family. I was eldest of 3 daughters as well. So I was ruining it for my sisters. I was often misunderstood. And my intentions were really questioned very early on when I was in my teens, as I was growing up. And for me, those experiences fueled my desire to get out of that situation so that I could live my life the way I wanted to live my life. Now, did I live my life in a way that it broke all the rules? No. I pretty much stuck to the script that way, in terms of had a good corporate career. They moved on to become an influencer, a speaker, a best-selling author, and now, an entrepreneur and a founder. But at that time, those experiences led me to take that monumental leap so that I could get into this life that had some kind of normalcy to it. Now, that said, am I ever going to be the person who is going to accept status quo? No, I'm always going to question it. I'm always going to empower other women. I'm always going to have a hard talk when it needs to happen. And that way, it doesn't have to be in the boundaries of rule breaker or rule follower. It has to be in the boundaries of what aligns with my values, what I feel most passionate about, and how I'm going to achieve that.
Yeah. Which again comes back to this sense of self. It's like, Yeah, it's just always back to that.
People talk a lot about self-worth, self-love. And I will tell you that as much as there is a negative connotation to the word selfish, you really have to be selfish sometimes. You really have to think about it in terms of, what do I really want? And I inherently believe that there is no soul that exists in this universe that wants anything bad for other people. We all want something that's valuable for ourselves, that makes us happy, that makes us successful. And once we have that realization, everything else falls in place.
Yeah. I just want that to land for a second, because that's so, that's just smashed through some massive judgments that people can put on each other. Being accused of being selfish or narcissistic or anything that's kind of protecting the self or in the interest of self can often be condemned. But actually, it's that old saying, put your oxygen mask on before helping others.
Absolutely.
And I just, I love that, because it is giving, and this is part of empowering women, is giving women permission to be kind and loving and giving to oneself. Because if you don't do that, maybe you can't be fully empowered.
Absolutely. It's empowering women to actually live their life as a human being, right? Because if you look at human beings, what are our needs, our desires, right? And how many times do we forget everything about ourselves just to give to others? But if you're not happy in yourself, if you haven't, like, it's like think about a doctor who is not taking care of themselves because they're busy treating other patients. Could they ever be in a scenario where they are not infectious to others? And are they able to fulfill their duties by not taking care of themselves? Like, when you put it in that perspective, you would say, geez, no, doctor, go take care of yourself so that you can take care of us. Nobody actually says that to women.
Yes, that is such an amazing analogy. I've never thought about it that way.
So it's a journey. It's a journey for each one of us, I think. I've seen it's a journey for my mom, who gave everything up and thought that all her sacrifices would make meaning when her kids grow up and are successful in life, right? There's so much of that projection that mothers, at least my mom, had, right? She left she was studying to be a doctor. And when she realized that she was pregnant with me and she had complications, she decided to leave her studies and, just deal with the pregnancy issues and bring me to this world. Maybe I would never, if I would have been in her shoes, my approach would have been different. But since then, I have seen her making sacrifices in her life to give to her family and give to her kids. But there is something in her that wants its own identity as well. And I see that now as she talks about things. And the infrastructure at that time, the awareness wasn't there, 40 years ago, for her to be able to make some of those decisions for herself. And that's why it's so important to mainstream these conversations as well. And that's why we see women now in their later stages of their life doing something great, groundbreaking, right? Look at the founder of Nykaa, the unicorn that had the beauty brand, and the unicorn that just last year was all over in news. The founder is 50 plus years old. And that's because people have this passion. You know, we all have talents. We don't get enough opportunities. And now the opportunities are becoming available. Now these conversations are happening. And I just get so excited when I look at today's day and age, because there's room for everybody. There's so much opportunity for everybody. And I can't just wait to see how it evolves.
Yeah. You know, you've spoken about so much, and I love the fact that you're speaking about women finding themselves, because that can really happen at any age. And the key is finding yourself.
Yeah.
Looking. Because I think in past generations, there's always been an emphasis on forget yourself, become a mum, be the homemaker, you know, and there's just, women haven't had the time or the space to actually self-actualize and self-realize, like know what their talents are, know what their strengths are, you know, all these kinds of things, because they've been so busy doing what's expected of them.
Yeah.
And we're now living in
also think about it, right? You have a creative brain and you have an operational brain, right? Creative brain is where all the ideas come up, all this great innovation happens. And then there's an operational brain that's always about the mundane, getting things done, the tasks. And women predominantly in the earlier generations have been focused on that operational piece, right? Running the house, making sure everybody has food, making sure kids go to school on time, making sure that the house is clean, making sure that the business is run effectively in the house, that they never got an opportunity to even think about this creative side that existed.
Yes.
And there's no opportunity to find yourself when you're constantly busy thinking about the operational tasks that you have to do and then you have to work on.
And also innovation and creativity are so massively intertwined.
Yes.
And when you allow women to let their creativity blossom, it's like, whether it's in STEM or other areas, they're given a chance to be innovative. And this is why women are becoming more and more empowered, because we are in an age where we are giving women more of an opportunity and chance. It's not that they've never been technical enough or articulate enough or whatever. We just haven't been given the space to.
Yes, the mental space to do that time to be by themselves and figure out what makes them happy. And honestly, if you start looking at today's age, right, what is not STEM? Everything is STEM.
Yeah.
There's science, there's technology involved in everything. If you have to start anything of your own, there is mathematics involved in that. You have to start thinking about things differently. And I think that this whole notion of STEM needs to change too, because it's the flawed education system that forces us to think about STEM in a very linear way, while it's not, right? I often take an example of YouTube and the creator economy that's growing with that, the gig economy piece. And there's so many women who are from villages, from rural areas, who might not have, an MBA, but they're figuring it out. And they have millions of subscribers. They're figuring out how to tag right people, how to identify their niche, how to actually start making money, right? That's all STEM. That's science, that's technology, that's learning how AI algorithms work in the background, right? And it might not have those tags associated with it. But when you give people an opportunity, they inherently figure out ways to make it work, understanding the fundamentals behind those various processes. Whether they can tag it to a particular name, I don't know, right? If you ask somebody how an algorithm works, let's take an example of a woman who has her cooking channel on YouTube and is tagging and making sure that every time she puts on a new video, the algorithm recognizes it. They may or may not understand all the nitty-gritties of it, but they are playing with the system. They are interacting with the system now. Right? And that is something that we can't discount in today's age. There is nothing that's not within the reach of STEM. There's not one act that you would do as you start thinking about success that would not have crossovers with STEM. So it's the scientific aptitude, I would say, that we all have. And it's now that people get an opportunity to interact with different systems. And Shini, you and I have been on a couple of those international DEI judging events around engineering, right? And we see all these beautiful ideas come up over there as well. Mm. Some ideas that might seem like very, very social impact, but have so strong technology foothold in the back, right? And that's why I'm just like, this whole notion of STEM needs to expand a little bit too, right? Because we've had a very myopic view in the past around STEM.
Yeah. Rashim, I could talk to you for hours, but this hour that we have spoken has really touched on some profound subjects and profound impacts, and it's all around individuals, women in particular, finding their true centers of gravity, really gaining, as you say, discovering, I'm just going to repeat your words, discovering, visualizing, and actualizing. And this idea of women, please give yourself a chance, give yourself a chance, whether it's in STEM or not, preferably STEM, because our future is STEM based and has been for a while. But this idea of really giving ourselves a chance to flourish and blossom by just learning who you are, and gathering together with other empowered women who are also on that journey of self-discovery, and then, as you say, celebrating our achievements. Because that was the word when you mentioned the C's, that was the one word that I really tuned into, because it is a true celebration to apply ourselves and our gifts to make a difference.
So at EVA, we like to say we have EVA awards every year. We started those awards 3 years ago, and we encourage women to self-nominate themselves for the awards. And the reason behind it is, why wait for somebody else to celebrate you? You know your story the best, and you are the best person to tell your story. But also those awards, that celebration comes with a huge responsibility. And that responsibility is to inspire other women leaders, because what we don't see is we become only what we see. If we don't see other women leaders rising, being successful, winning awards, our little boys and our little girls will never have that sense of what women can achieve. So for me, celebration is not just about celebrating yourself or your successes or other women leaders. it's also about that responsibility of inspiring others, because it's a bank. You can take out of it only when you put something in it. There's only so much otherwise that you can take out of it without putting in it. And we have to think about it that way.
Well, Rashim, in celebrating you, in having you as a guest on this podcast, you've really inspired me to also acknowledge the things I've done too. Because hearing you speak and really feeling the empowerment in you allows me to feel the empowerment in myself. And I just think that's what you're all about. Empowering.
Isn't that so exciting? Like when you leave a conversation feeling like, geez, I'm so much more than what I was thinking I was.
Yeah. And it's because you're such a lighthouse yourself. Thank you for shining a light on the light we have in ourselves. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You are a beacon of light. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful, and I'm just so excited to be on this show, Shini. I know you and I had been planning this for a while now, and I'm so glad that it happened today. And I hope that our audience just leaves with that motivation in themselves to go find themselves.
Mic drop. Oh, wow. I feel really emotional listening to you because honestly, you're just, wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Where can we get your book?
Amazon. There is a book and there is a guided journal, and they're both by the same name, Fast Track Your Leadership Career. You read the book first, and then you go through the process of self-discovery through the guided journal.
Okay. Well, thank you. Wonderful. I don't know what else to say. It's just one of these things where you just ignite something, and it's like, I almost feel like I just want to like let it sink in and
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Gosh, the joy was absolutely all mine. So thank you. I'm so glad we've done this, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Are you ever in London?
I'm not. I was there that weekend when Meghan and Harry were getting married.
Oh, wow.
And I've not been there ever since then. But if I am, I'll give you a shout.
Please do. Yeah.
And are you ever in the Bay Area?
You know, I lived in LA for 5 years.
Wow.
Between 2013 and 18. And I just never go back. I wish I could go back, but I now live between Paris and London. I'm commuting so much in between, and like I just California is, but honestly, I love America so much because you guys are just like so open-minded and so progressive and so like trailblazing in your mentality, and we're so behind here in the UK.
I never thought it from that perspective. I do feel privileged that I live in the Silicon Valley, where it's truly a melting pot, and there's so much intelligent conversation that's going on. I get to advise a lot of startups over here, and I exited my corporate career earlier this month. I gave them a 6-month notice of that 6 months because I really wanted to take Eva to the next level. And there was just so much interest coming from companies who have been our sponsors for our summit for every year, in terms of building it to a more full-blown AI-driven platform. And it was time for me to say, I'm going to put my corporate career on pause. This is the perfect time. Economic slowdown is on its way. There are going to be less temptations for me to take on another opportunity, or golden handcuffs, as I like to call them, as they truly are, and really spend some time thinking about how I want to grow this. Because our podcast is in 50 countries. It's on 11 platforms. Last year, we were invited by Amazon Audible and Amazon Music to be hosted on their platform. And then obviously our virtual summit is across the globe. It's happening on 22nd, which is this Saturday. Super exciting. But there is just so much to be done, Shini. It's just so much to be done, and every step counts. Every step counts, and I just don't want to miss that opportunity. I just don't want to be part of that history that we are going to make together.
If there's anything I can do to help or participate, or I don't know, but
yeah, we should talk about that next year when we open the speaker sessions. I would definitely love for you to be one of the speakers. I mean, we've had speakers from all across the globe. Actually, last year we had a speaker from UK, we had a speaker from Australia. This year, the vibe is a little different because everybody's so gloomy about what's happening in the world, especially in the tech world, right? But yes, let's figure out how to go about it. I would actually love to see if you are interested in becoming a guest on the EVAL podcast. And we don't do video podcasts, it's all audio, but it's done on Zoom. And if yes, we can plan out something for next month.
Great. Yeah, just let me know. I love what you stand for. Everything you talk about has been a journey I have been uncovering with really no plan or clue, but it's just one foot in front of the other, and you just articulated the journey I've been on. It really resonates with me, what you've said. So if there's anything I can do to support what you're doing or personify your principles, I would love to be part of it. So let me know.
Let me think through it in terms of things. There's definitely going to be opportunities that we can use all the muscle power that we have right now to help us talk about the mission of EVAL, talk about how we're building things. We are actually building up our coaching practice in a big way. So my co-founder is an ICF certified coach, and really, the biggest thing is for me, it took so many years for me to make this move. And last year in August, I decided that I'm going to make that move, and I'm going to quit my corporate career, and I'm going to step into entrepreneurship. I know so many other women leaders who want to do that, but they stay in poor relationships, be it job or be it personal relationships, because of a paycheck. Yeah. And we want to change that too. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to do that. So I'm learning a lot of things myself, in the process to figure out how we can really start thinking about building that model for women leaders, so that you have multiple streams of income that gives you the freedom to really discover yourself.
Yeah.
So I haven't figured it out yet. It's a journey for myself too. But as we go through that journey, I would love to explore that with you and see what you think about it too.
Yeah. I would love to have at least conversations about it, because I also made, after many experiences, I also made a real promise to myself. From now on, I'm going to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And for a woman, that can often, it's quite a bold decision to make, because as women, you know, we're often part of a partnership, and, you know, and that's why I don't have kids and I've never been married, because I couldn't not formulate, what's the word?
You couldn't imagine yourself in that situation where you were dependent.
I just didn't want to get into a dynamic where I'm sharing with a man this situation.
Or a dynamic where the decision making becomes hard for you, right? I was in that situation when I decided not to go for an arranged marriage, because I felt like I would be tied to something and I would not have the freedom to go explore myself. I was lucky when I moved over here to find a partner who was really, truly like, go do what you want to do, and I will hold the fort. And that's what the conversation became all about. So I've never had.
And that in itself is, it's such a different way of approaching relationships that is very new age, because I'm finding that the most empowered female leaders always have such supportive men. And I have been raised where the man runs the household, you know, and as a result, I never went for those things, because I was like, it just doesn't sit well with me, this idea of like the man at the top of the, it just
it makes you cringe within yourself. It makes you feel uncomfortable with the whole situation, right? And that was the scenario in my house too. My mom, in so many ways, was the pillar of strength for all of us, right? But ultimately bowed down to my dad.
Yes, I had the same confusion.
And that infuriated me in so many ways. That didn't seem right to me in so many ways. So actually, when I was about to marry my husband, I told him I did not want kids. And he said, as long as you're not completely opposed to it, it's a conversation that I'm ready to park. And just him saying that made me feel like I'm going to have the control. You know, 3 years down the line, we decided to have kids. And at that time, not once did it cross my mind that I actually never want to have kids, or I'm being forced into that, because it came so organically at that time to me, because I was so secure in being who I was. Like, there has been never a question of how much do I make, what career choices I'm making. Our finances are completely separate, and I like to keep it that way. So it's a true partnership, as opposed to, and that's very important, I think. And it was always clear to him too, that I am in this relationship not because of any of my needs, but because I truly wanted to be with him. And I think that changes a lot of things, because now it's a partnership of equals. It's not that I'm dependent on someone for something. That really was, I think, if I would say, one of the things that I did right in my life, to make my life better. I think that was one of the things.
And you know what? When you see women making those smart decisions when it comes to relationships, you actually see the male species changing, because they realize now actually the currency isn't, you know, showing off with their material wealth or what they can provide and this toxic masculine kind of prizes that they can offer women. Actually, it's just supportiveness, kindness, respect. Like, you know,
it's a very different conversation. It's a very, very different conversation. There's no insecurity. There is no jealousy in things. It's just a very different kind of a conversation. And I've seen friends who have had husbands, and I, by no means want to break their relationship, but I'm like, geez, how can you live with a person like that? Like, it really doesn't make any sense to me. I would not live my life like that. So that's that. Now, with that said, we don't come from the same community. He's born here. He's not Indian, which brings its own set of other challenges. But those challenges are nowhere compared to, what it would have been had I been on the other side of the ocean trying to deal with an Indian man. Hate to stereotype, but that's true.
Oh, well, I could definitely talk to you for hours. Sadly, I don't have hours. I'm actually returning to a filming shoot in about an hour and a half.
How exciting is that life, Shini?
Yeah, honestly, the film today was absolutely amazing. We were basically at the airport looking at the engineering, because whenever you think of aviation, you think of planes in terms of engineering, but we were looking at all the other aspects, and it was so fascinating. And we're going to return to Heathrow Airport to go down the runway, because it will be closed at that time, and change some lamps and be in the lamp workshop, because if it isn't for the lamps, planes just wouldn't be guided in and out of the airport. So I'm going to go and do that.
Do you work for a production house, Shini, or is it your own company that you run?
It's my own company now. I spent many years working for television networks and independent production companies, and now I have my own. And I'm finally making content that I want to make. But, I've just recently started this company, and it's as a result of my 7th book that I published in March. It's here, Engineers Making a Difference.
Yes, I saw that online when you put it out there.
Yeah, so we're now creating a social media campaign around it. So it's been a real sort of like jumping in the deep end and just getting on with it, and finally making the kind of content I want to make. But when you're leading, I mean, you'll know this, like, when you're leading a company, there's so much to learn, and you have to learn in the moment, and
every day is a learning process. Every day is a discovery. Well, I will let you go to it, because you need a little bit of break before you put yourself out there. I'm an introvert, so I need to go back into my shell for some time myself. Do you know when this would be released, Shini?
Probably in about 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Is there a better time? Because I can swap things out if there's something happening on your side that would create a lot of buzz.
Well, Evo Summit is very close now. It's this Saturday, so we've kind of missed the boat on that. The first time when you reached out to me, I was thinking maybe we can time it around that way. But let me do one thing. Let's at least grab a screenshot of this so that I can put it out there today. If I can do it right. I have to still figure out all these social media things. Okay, here we go. Oh, share. No, did not work. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to position it and then smile, and here we go. Okay, so I did that. I will put out at least a social media post today, tomorrow, and then we'll take it from there. But
I could post it. I could post it. So next Tuesday is the 25th. I could post it May 2nd.
That works for me. Just tag me and Evo. I'm actually going to invite you into our Evo page as well, the LinkedIn page, so that you can be a part of at least that journey and see the interactions that are there. Then we'll take it from there.
Amazing.
Sounds good. Bye-bye. Take care.
much. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and please do subscribe to this podcast and maybe even rate and review it if you can. The more ratings and reviews, then the more interest from those trusty algorithms, which could help to increase the reach of this show. And you can watch the video recording of this conversation on YouTube for my new series called eSTEAMd Women. It's all about self-discovery and self-evolution on innovation. So as always, be kind and loving to yourselves, and I wish you all a great week.